Everybody Curious acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Everybody Curious. In Everybody Curious land, Nadine and Spencer sit on the couch.
I'm really excited about today's episode because, number one, some of my friends from season 2 are coming back.
I'm so excited to meet these folks.
Also, we're going to be talking about the A word.
Alpaca.
No.
Abs. Apples. Acorns.
Why would we be doing a show about acorns?
I don't know, you said A word.
I actually meant abortion.
Oh, much different.
Very different. But that's why I'm bringing my friends in to help us talk about it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Later,
So, welcome everyone to Everybody Curious Land.
Ginger and Blue peek in.
Ginger, Blue, get out of here.
It's not your turn.
They leave.
You're so unprofessional. Okay, so Spencer, I'm really excited because these are some of my friends from Everybody Curious season 2.
Back then, they were younger kids in a classroom. They're shown then and now as teenagers. Lucas, Abigail, Adrian, Grace, Zoya, and Elise. In season 2, Nadine stands by a bag hanging from a figure of a body.
Who is ready for scrotum ball?
In Everybody Curious land,
And here you go, just for old time's sake. Since Spencer didn't get to play last time, why don't we do an impromptu game of scrotum ball? Go!
they each throw a ball to a basket. A couple miss. Spencer throws a stray ball and Nadine catches it. She puts it in the basket.
All right. What comes to mind when you hear the word abortion?
Abigail,
Yeah.
I think of like disagreements because some people think it's not okay and some people think it is okay.
Yeah, and people, because it's something that can involve children, that it's related to babies, those are things that we can have like really big feelings about. Are there any other feelings you think might come up for folks around abortion?
Grace,
I know that the procedure can also be kind of scary sometimes, so I feel like fear is like a emotion that I think of sometimes. Like me personally, I don't know what actually like happens during an abortion. Right. I know that like the fetus, you kill the fetus's heartbeat and everything, but I don't know anything other than that. I don't like the technicalities of it. I just know like what it is.
Do you have any thoughts about why someone might choose an abortion?
Abigail,
If it's like a young mother, they don't think they're old enough.
Yeah, they may not feel ready for that, for the responsibility of having a child, yeah.
Adrian,
Financial status, because sometimes people don't have the income to support a whole new life.
If the pregnancy is unwanted
Elise,
and like it happened out of like something traumatic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about how people might feel after they have an abortion, either immediately afterwards or even after some time has passed. Yeah.
Grace,
Like I would assume they'd feel like a sense of loss, kind of like what they could have had, like even if they're not financially stable.
Yeah, I think so.
Adrian,
I think sense of relief. If it's been a huge stress in your life recently, thinking about what to do, and once it happens, you're kind of relieved. You don't have that stress or that worry.
Yeah, I think that definitely could be something that people feel as well, yeah.
Zoya,
Or missing the baby, wondering like what the person would have been like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you all have said it really plainly. I think one of the things that I have learned is that there's complex feelings around abortion, and whatever those feelings are, those are okay. So we talked a lot about feelings around abortion, and a few of you had some questions about the procedure itself. So Nadine and I had the opportunity to visit a clinic to just get the overall sense of what that looks like, not the actual procedure itself, but the whole experience from when you arrived at the clinic. So we'll take a look at that now.
So this clinic, when someone comes in, they will go down the hall, they will speak to the receptionist, and the receptionist will greet them and then give them just a little form to fill out, and then they would fill out the form, name, a little bit of medical history. Then they go and they see the doctor, and the doctor's gonna look at their form, and they're also gonna go over their different options. They're going to get onto the examining table for an ultrasound, and an ultrasound is an external procedure, so there's just a little bit of gel here, and then they just use this instrument to basically locate the fetus within the uterus. Then they go upstairs and they go into this second floor waiting room. They've got blankets there, and if they've chosen a medical abortion, they'll be given these tablets. They'll take tablets here, and then they have tablets they also take at home. If they've chosen a surgical abortion, they're going to go to a changing room and change into a gown. It's a paper gown usually. And then they go down to an operating suite and there's a nurse. You're going to be given some pain medication and some light sedation, so they aren't unconscious, but it's going to help make them more comfortable and feel more calm. And then the nurse is going to stay with them until it's time for them to go home, and most people go home the same day. So now that you've seen the video, I'm wondering if there was anything in there that surprised you or was maybe different than what you were expecting.
Lucas.
The one thing I noticed that I didn't know about was you had two options. There was a surgical abortion and the medical abortion, I think it was called, and I didn't know you could take pills. I thought it was just the one option.
That's right. So who else here was maybe surprised to find out that there are two types of abortions?
4 raise their hand.
Does anybody have any guesses as to what the difference is between the two? Yes?
Adrian.
The pills, they just happen without you noticing, you know, I think, and versus the surgery is more like it happens right now versus over time.
That is actually one difference. So when somebody has a surgical abortion, it's one procedure, whereas with a medical abortion with the pills, it's actually a multi-step process, and then the pregnancy is terminated over a slightly longer period of time. There's also another pretty key difference between a surgical abortion and a medical abortion. I'm wondering if anyone either knows or maybe has a guess as to what the difference is.
Lucas.
This is just a guess, but maybe medical abortion, you can only do it very early on.
Yes, you're exactly right. Typically with a medical abortion, that's an abortion that can be done in the first 6 or so weeks of a pregnancy. After that, if someone chooses to terminate a pregnancy, then it needs to be a surgical abortion. But abortion clinics, many abortion clinics will offer both options. I'm wondering if you had any other thoughts about the video or things that we saw in the video.
Like when I thought of abortion before I watched the video, it was like the hospital where it's like super sterile and like everyone's kind of like
Grace.
emotionless and are like kind of pointing you where you need to go. But that made it seem a lot more like friendly, and like the nurse will be like comforting you through the whole thing.
Abigail.
Like the place that it was at, it didn't look like a hospital. It kind of looked like a house to me.
Yes. The staff will try to make the environment as comfortable and comforting as possible. It does depend a lot, I think, on where we are in the world. You know, the laws around abortion are different in different countries, or sometimes they're even different in different parts of the same country.
And I think when we think about access to abortion too, we're often thinking about it from a non-disabled lens. Sometimes those sort of houses or clinics are not accessible to folks with disabilities. So there is no other option except for a hospital or those sorts of things. So when we're looking at access, sometimes it can be really easy to think about that from a non-disabled lens. And I think, I don't know if you noticed in our tour, but they did have a flight of stairs to get upstairs to the clinic on the second floor, and there was a wheelchair lift. So it looks like, from the inside, that one is accessible.
We actually had a really interesting conversation with our friend Gabriella about abortion and accessibility, and we're going to show you a little bit of that now.
A woman sits in a power wheelchair.
Thank you for welcoming us in your home. We're so excited to be here. Now, we know you, but not everybody else does. Can you introduce yourself and tell folks the work that you do?
Yeah, so my name is Gabriella, and I'm a social worker, a psychotherapist, and a consultant. I specialize in perinatal social work, as well as I work with individuals, teenagers, and children with disabilities in my own private practice. I'm also a single parent by choice, and I have a 2-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow, awesome. Well, we really appreciate you having us here.
Thanks for coming over.
Yeah.
So, let's say I was 10 years old and I said to you, what's an abortion? How would you answer that question?
I would explain, people get pregnant, individuals can get pregnant, and an abortion is a way to stop that pregnancy from progressing.
And if I asked you, does that hurt?
Sometimes it can be a little bit painful for the person. They may have to take a medicine or go to the hospital or a clinic to have a specific procedure done. And sometimes emotionally it can be quite challenging.
Then maybe I might like to know, do people feel sad because they're not going to have a baby?
Some people feel sad, but a lot of people who have abortions, they weren't planning maybe to have a baby. So I think it's not that everybody feels a certain way, it's really asking the person how they are feeling about it. A lot of people with disabilities, for example, other people feel like they shouldn't get pregnant or have any children. So sometimes they may feel forced to have an abortion. And there's also considerations around the accessibility of certain clinics, whether they have attendance, whether the person with the disability is understanding of the information that they're being given, and also whether that clinic and the people that work there reflect their identity.
And if a disabled person is able to have an abortion, what about afterwards?
I think generally there's a lack of supports for individuals who have abortions. So when we're taking into consideration people with disabilities, it's kind of like they're not always able to feel whatever feelings that are coming up for them. And I think that can be true if you don't have a disability, but specifically when you do. There's no tailored support for people with disabilities who access abortions. And sometimes things that can happen during the abortion that can make that experience even more difficult for somebody.
So if we want to provide people with disabilities with more support, what would that look like maybe?
I think a better understanding for sure about what will happen to your body, what the procedure entails depending on how far along they are in their pregnancy, what they can expect afterwards, making sure that information is developmentally appropriate for them, ensuring they have extra supports, whether that be attending care, they might need additional hours after the abortion, and of course we don't want to forget mental health.
So what are some ways that we can talk to kids about abortions or, answer any questions that they might have?
When we're talking to kids, I think it's really important to keep aware of their developmental age and understanding, just like with any of these big life topics, and answering their questions truthfully and factually. And I know that because this topic is so complex, sometimes those answers can be complex as well.
Yeah.
And really getting to the sense of how they even feel about it, what they've heard. I'm always curious about what kids know about a topic before I answer any questions.
My inner 10-year-old has one last question about abortion. If someone has to get an abortion, where do they go?
Well, they can go to an abortion clinic. They can go to their doctor and let them know that they're pregnant and they need a referral to a hospital to have an abortion. So we do have options here. Just like we have options if there's other things you need medical attention for and need to go to the doctors.
So it's just like if you get sick or you need to see a doctor, that's who you go to.
Yeah.
And that's how abortion works too?
Yes.
In Everybody Curious Land.
So if someone has an unintended pregnancy, abortion is one of their options. What are some other options someone might have if they're facing an unintended pregnancy? Yes.
Abigail.
They could put them up for adoption, like once they were born.
That's right. So they could still carry to term, give birth, and then place the child with another family for adoption.
I don't know if this is like abortion, but the morning after pill.
Yes, so the morning after pill is not the same as the pills that somebody takes for a medical abortion. The morning after pill is something that someone can take if they've had either unprotected sex or something happened with their contraception. So say if a condom broke or if they forgot to take their hormonal birth control pill, they can take a morning after pill within 72 hours of having had that unprotected sex, and that will prevent a pregnancy in many cases. So let's talk about options if somebody is sexually active and they are having the kind of sex that could lead to a pregnancy, but they don't want to become pregnant. What are some options that might be available to them?
Abigail.
I was just gonna say that you could use like a condom.
You can use a condom, and that is what we would call a barrier method of birth control. What I love about condoms as well is that condoms can reduce transmission of sexually transmitted infections also. So you kind of get like a 2-for-1. So different people make different choices when it comes to this issue. And speaking of choices, I have an activity for us. Also, I'm getting hungry, so let's move it to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay, let's go. Okay, everyone, we are in the kitchen. Who is ready to eat?
Everyone else raises a hand.
Yes. All right. This is going to be a competition. I want you to make the pizza of your dreams. We have toppings galore. I am going to put 3 minutes on the clock. And in the end, the wonderful, the fabulous Spencer West will be our judge. So, Abby has a question.
I'm just wondering, what does this have to do with abortion?
Very, very good question. You know what? Let's get into that after we get our food prepared, because I don't know about y'all, but I am hungry. On your marks, get set, go. All right, don't hold back, don't hold back.
The guests load cooked pizza crusts with everything from pepperoni and cheese to chocolate spread, candies, and fruit. Nadine watches over Grace's shoulder. She gives Abigail an okay sign.
We are down to our last 5 seconds. Finish it off. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands off the... Now, Spencer, it's up to you. Now is the time when you tell us which of these pizzas is the right pizza.
I've deliberated with the judges in my mind, and I've come to the conclusion that they're all right, because you made them.
Excellent. And so I want to circle back to Abby's question. What does this have to do with abortion? We had all of these ingredients. How do you all feel about the fact the other folks here made different choices than you made?
Grace.
It doesn't affect me personally, so I don't really care too much. Like, as long as I get to have my pizza, I don't really mind what they put on theirs.
What questions do you think people your age might have about abortion?
Adrian.
I know one that I'm not so sure about, but when it is a baby. Because there's a point where it's just a couple cells, and then there's a point where it's a child.
That's what we would call sort of a philosophical question. It means that there's different ideas around it, and so there isn't actually like a universal answer to when it becomes a baby, and a lot of people feel differently about it. That's one of the reasons that this can be such a controversial topic, because for some people, when they become pregnant, right away, they're like, this is my baby. And that baby is real to them, even if it is just sort of a small cluster of cells that is a being that they love and they care for. And it can be hard for them to understand that other people may not feel the same way. But there isn't actually a clear, definitive right answer, just like all the pizzas are sort of equally right. So there's a lot of different ways to think about it.
So today we've talked a lot about from the perspective of the person who might be choosing to have an abortion, but we've never really had the conversation about what do you think the role of the potential partner of that person is?
Grace.
I think it's important to be a support system for them, and no matter what they decide, to like stand with them.
Adrian.
I do somewhat agree with both your points, but it's not just one person's child that could possibly be brought into the world. Not everyone, I think, is just okay with knowing that their kid's somewhere in the world and they don't have the possibility to help them.
I don't know about y'all, but looking at these have made me hungry. So let's dive into these very right pizzas.
Lucas's has potato chips and pretzels. Zoya.
It's kind of bad.
Abigail.
Red licorice was good. You can have mine.
You know what? Your pizza, your choice, your problem.
Lucas folds his and shakes his head. Later, Nadine and Spencer sit on the couch with 2 toy dragons.
You know, I wish every conversation about abortion went that well.
I know, they were so great and they had such lovely insight.
Yeah, they're awesome. You know what else I wish?
Tell me.
I kind of wish we had more pizza toppings.
I know, we didn't get to make one.
Oh, wait.
She finds a bowl of snacks.
Would I?
Spencer takes it.
While I do this, why don't you tell them our social?
For more information, check us out on socials at Everybody Curious.
Or on our website, everybodycurious.com.
You want to share?
Sure.
He hands the bowl back.
You're welcome.
Titles. Created by Louise Pollard. Written and directed by Kim Harris. Hosts and creative consultants, Nadine Thornhill, Spencer West. Everybody Curious cast, Grace, Adrian, Lucas, Abigail, Zoya, and Elise. Guest, Gabriella Carafa. Everybody Curious Dolls, Ginger and Blue, created by Nell Coleman. Production Manager, Helene C. Valinsky. Director of Photography, Colin Evans. Production Designer, Deanna Kubista. Dragons, created by Claire Burgess. Closed captions, Line 21 Media Services. Described video, Power of Babel. Executive Producer, Louise Pollard. Special thanks, Dr. Christina Pop, Cabbagetown Women's Clinic. Special thanks, condoms provided by GEMS. Special thanks, Grace, Adrian, Lucas, Abigail, Zoya, and Elise's families. Special thanks, James, Dan, Tess, and Stella, Scott, Christina, Ian, and everyone at Shaftesbury. Produced with the financial participation of the Shaw Rocket Fund and the Bell Fund. Funded by the Government of Canada. Albert Certified Production. Louise Pollard. EverybodyCurious.com.